What if one throw, just one, could flip an entire franchise upside down? What if a player hidden in plain sight, buried on the depth chart and ignored by the media, casually dropped a pass so perfect, so undeniable, that it shattered a multi-million-dollar narrative in under 60 seconds? That's exactly what happened in Cleveland. It wasn't a game. It wasn't a press conference. It wasn't even supposed to be seen. But once that footage leaked, a single clip from a closed-door practice, the internet didn't just react. It erupted. Timelines exploded. YouTubers scrambled to upload breakdowns. TikTok went into overdrive. And fans across the country, from loyal Browns lifers to rival supporters, were all asking the same question. Why is this guy not starting? The Browns thought they had control. They thought they could shape the story on their own terms, slow play his development, manage expectations, and reveal their QB of the future when it felt safe. But all it took was one throw to tear off the mask. One 45-yard missile from Shedeur Sanders, laser-focused, threading through coverage like a heat-seeking weapon, and in that moment, everything changed. The silence that followed on the field said more than a press release ever could. And the celebration that broke out seconds later? That wasn't teammates reacting to a nice throw. That was a statement. It was the kind of throw that rips through coaching politics, depth chart, favoritism, and narrative control, leaving only one thing standing: truth. But what happened next? That's where things really got dangerous. Because when you mix raw talent, a defiant locker room, and a fan base sick of being lied to, you don't just get hype, you get a revolution. And for Cleveland, it started with a leak. Now let's break down exactly how this viral moment went from cell phone footage to full-on organizational crisis. From one perfect throw to a power shift the NFL wasn't ready for. This is the story of how Shedeur Sanders broke the system on accident. Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. It started like any normal day behind closed gates at Browns practice. No press, no fans, just drills, reps, and that quiet tension that builds when roster decisions hang in the air. Then someone hit record. We don't know who. Maybe a staffer, maybe a player, maybe just a fan with connections and a phone in their pocket. But what they captured in less than 60 seconds did more than go viral. It exposed everything. The footage was shaky at first, grainy, like it wasn't meant to be seen. Cleveland's second-team offense lines up, players jogging into position, defensive backs barking across the line. And then, there he is, 12. Shedeur Sanders. Not with the starters, not leading the first-team reps, just casually standing behind a backup O-line like nothing was out of place. Online, fans had seen his name buried in preseason depth charts, heard the usual sound bites from coaches, development process, competitive reps, trust the system. But what happened next made all that spin sound like noise. The ball snaps. Shedeur takes 2 steps back, eyes downfield, locked in, calm, almost too calm. And then boom, one effortless flick of the wrist, and the air literally changes. The ball slices through it like a missile, a 45-yard laser on a dead sprint toward the sideline. No arc, no drama, just pure velocity. It lands perfectly in stride with the receiver. No adjustment, no reach back, just bang hands, feet, catch. The silence in that moment is louder than any crowd roar. Even the defenders freeze, as if they didn't just watch a second-string QB make an A-tier NFL throw look. Routine. That silence only lasts for half a second. Then comes chaos. Players sprinting downfield, shouting, celebrating like they just won a playoff round. Helmets flying, high fives everywhere, the kind of reaction you don't fabricate. It was raw, spontaneous. The kind you get when everyone in the room knows they just saw something they weren't supposed to. By the time the video hit social media, it wasn't a slow burn. It was a digital explosion. The caption wasn't dramatic. Just 5 words. They've been hiding him from us. That's all it took. Within minutes, football Twitter lit up like it was playoff night. TikTok flooded with reactions. On Instagram, fan pages posted frame-by-frame breakdowns. Millions of views. Thousands of comments demanding answers. The momentum was instant and brutal. People weren't just watching a throw, they were watching a shift in power. Because in that one clip, the fan base saw what the coaching staff had been trying to keep quiet. A quarterback who looked more prepared, more poised, and more lethal than the man currently warming up with the starters. It wasn't just a highlight, it wasn't hype. It was proof. And once fans saw it, once teammates reacted the way they did, there was no going back. The Browns had a secret, and now the world knew. Before the clip, Shedeur Sanders was just another name on the depth chart. A development project. A rookie with potential. Someone the Browns could mold slowly, safely, quietly, without pressure. At least, that was the narrative. Head coach Kevin Stefanski played it by the book. He told reporters they were evaluating talent, that competition was part of the process, and that Shedeur was right where he needed to be. Translation? He's not ready yet. But fans had already begun asking questions. Why wasn't one of college football's most poised and polished quarterbacks getting real snaps? Why were reporters barely mentioning him? Why did the practice footage, what little existed, seem so carefully curated? Simple answer, they were keeping him under wraps. But here's what makes it worse: people knew. Across Reddit threads and fan forums, whispers had already started months earlier. He looks better in practice than reports suggest. He's throwing daggers in second-team drills. Why is nobody talking about this guy? You don't need a press credential to see when something doesn't add up. Players saw it too. That practice clip wasn't a fluke. It was confirmation. Confirmation of everything that had been happening behind the scenes. That throw, that chemistry, that poise, it had been building, growing, repeating itself every day behind closed doors. The decision to keep Shedeur low on the ladder wasn't about talent, it was about timing, politics, control. Because when you draft a quarterback high, develop him quietly, then suddenly unveil him as the future, you look like a genius. But if word gets out too early? If fans start chanting for the backup before the starter even takes a regular season snap, you lose the narrative. You lose control. And the Browns hate losing control. It's why the clip hit so hard, why the internet didn't just cheer, it erupted, because it didn't feel like witnessing a great play. It felt like a truth that had been kept from them. The moment that video hit TikTok, fans didn't need a film analyst to tell them what they saw. It was right in front of them. A smooth release. Elite footwork, timing, precision, all under pressure, all without hesitation. Comments exploded. That's a Sunday throw, not a backup throw. He's more calm than our starter. They've been lying to us. Give him the keys already. YouTube creators fired up their content machines overnight. Side-by-side throw comparisons between Shedeur and top-tier NFL quarterbacks. Breakdowns of his college stats. Film study from games no one cared about 6 months ago. Now suddenly urgent gospel. Even Browns fans who were cautiously optimistic started to say it out loud. This is our guy. But it didn't stop with fans. The energy shifted inside the facility too. Teammates started hovering after his reps. Receivers began syncing with his timing. Defensive players, quiet at first, flashed smirks that said, "Yeah, he's legit." The momentum was real. And the deeper people looked, the more obvious it all became. This wasn't just an underdog waiting for his shot. Shedeur Sanders had quietly been outplaying expectations for weeks. The only reason you hadn't heard about it? Because they didn't want you to. But now, thanks to a shaky cell phone video and 5 words, "They've been hiding him from us," the secret was out. And the question wasn't if he'd take over. It was how long the organization could hold the line before everything fell apart. The internet had already made its mind up. But what really changed everything happened inside the building. Because while the Browns tried to control public perception with press statements and depth chart diplomacy, the locker room had already made its decision. And it wasn't quiet. It started in subtle ways. Wide receivers running extra routes but only with Shedeur. Backup linemen suddenly giving him extra protection during reps. Even defenders who are paid to knock quarterbacks off rhythm started pulling up just a second earlier around him. Respect. Unspoken but loud. Then came the nickname, 12. At first, it was just another jersey number. But soon, it felt different. Players weren't saying it like a label. They said it like a title. "I got roots with 12. 12's got the hot hand today. 12 can make that throw." It wasn't defiance. It was loyalty. Loyalty built the only way that matters in football. Through action. Veteran linemen started calling protections based on his tendencies. Receivers adjusted their routes before he even barked the signal. The team was playing with more fluidity under a quarterback who wasn't even their starter. Behind closed doors, it wasn't a quiet trend either, it was a shift in gravitational pull. And the coaching staff? They saw it. They felt it. Because you can fake buy-in at press conferences, you can spin stories in interviews, but you can't fake on-field chemistry. You can't coach what the team already believes in. Reports started leaking. Small at first, whispers from practice, anonymous tips to beat reporters. Shedeur's reps are cleaner than Dylan's. Veterans gravitate to him. There's a weird energy in the building, almost like the players are ignoring the playbook politics. But the real shock came during pre-practice warm-ups. Shedeur wasn't just participating, he was leading, calling out timing drills, correcting positioning, lifting other guys, even as his own status remained TBD. He didn't need permission to lead, he just was. Meanwhile, Dylan Gabriel, the projected QB1, felt it all slipping. His passes were clean but quiet. His footwork was smooth but cautious. Every missed read, every overthrown slant felt magnified under comparison. Not because he was failing, but because someone else was shining brighter. And there's no stat for pressure like that. Teammates didn't have to say it out loud. They just acted different. They huddled around Shedeur, lingered after his throws, laughed with more energy, moved with more fire. One offensive tackle apparently told a coordinator during lunch, "I don't care what the coaches write on the depth chart, we already know who the guy is." Another receiver leveled it up, "You don't fake belief." And right now, everyone believes in 12. That's when everything changed. Because in the NFL, once the players choose their quarterback, it's over. You can tape over it, delay it, denew it, but momentum doesn't ask for permission, and every rep Shedeur took only made that belief louder. It wasn't mutiny, it was inevitable. The coaching staff could feel authority slipping, not because they were losing control over a player, but because they were losing control of the locker room itself. And once teammates start following a leader who hasn't been officially declared the guy, the title becomes meaningless. For years, Kevin Stefanski was known as a stabilizer. Calm, calculated, never flashy, never emotional, just structure, systems, control. He was the kind of coach front offices love, predictable, press-polished, and always a quote away from redirecting pressure. He managed chaos by eliminating chaos. But no system is built to withstand a moment that the entire world can't unsee. And that's what the clip had become. It wasn't just a throw. It was undeniable evidence that everything the Browns were choosing to say wasn't aligned with what fans could clearly see. And as that gap between public perception and organizational messaging grew, things started to fray. Fast. The first cracks showed at the next press conference. Stefanski stepped up like usual, media-trained and composed, but this time, there was a weight behind his words. He was asked about the viral video. His response? "We're evaluating everything, all players at all positions. Practice is one piece of the puzzle." No urgency, no pride, no reassurance, just detachment. And the reporters felt it. The press pool went quiet, not out of respect, but confusion. This wasn't a coach trying to lead. This was a man trying to contain a wildfire with a garden hose. Outside that podium, the walls were caving in. The locker room had already made its choice. The internet had made its decision, and now, the owner was watching closely. Sources inside the organization started to leak what everyone suspected. Jimmy Haslam was thrilled with what he saw in that video. To him, it wasn't a media nightmare, it was a victory lap. The man he wanted, the guy he'd quietly championed on draft night, had just gone viral for all the right reasons. And Stefanski's insistence on patience now felt like resistance. Worse, like denial. Suddenly, internal meetings turned tense. Executives weren't asking, "How do we slow this down?" anymore. They were asking why it was being slowed down at all. One source claimed Haslam privately gave a simple directive. "I want him getting more reps, no excuses." That shift changed everything. Coaches were split. Half understood the tide had turned. The other half clung to the development plan like it was a flotation device in open water. And Stefanski? He stood in the middle. Not proud, not passionate, just stuck. Even his body language changed. Practices became stiffer. Player huddles grew shorter. His voice lacked energy, and the players saw it. You can't hide doubt from athletes who depend on momentum for a living. Shedeur responded by tightening his spiral, increasing his accuracy, leading teammates effortlessly. Stefanski responded with repetition, rotational drill patterns, controlled environments, rehearsed press answers. But football doesn't revolve around caution. It revolves around belief. And the louder the belief in Shedeur became, the quieter Stefanski's hold on the team became. Media coverage didn't help. ESPN ran the footage every hour. Shannon Sharpe's clip, "Stop playing games and start your best quarterback," went viral twice. Skip Bayless compared the throw to Joe Burrow's rookie preseason film. Dan Orlovsky broke it down frame by frame like a scene from a Christopher Nolan movie. And every time someone on TV praised that one throw, it chipped another piece off Stefanski's control. This wasn't football commentary anymore, it was a public audit of his leadership. Inside the building, players nodded without listening. Meetings ran the same. But commitment was gone. Because nobody was waiting for Stefanski to crown the next leader. They already had. And the moment that video went live, Kevin Stefanski didn't lose a player. He lost the story. And in today's NFL, if you don't own the story, you don't own the team. You can slow momentum, spin it, delay it. But once it hits terminal velocity, you don't manage it anymore. You survive it. That's exactly where the Cleveland Browns found themselves. Because Shedeur Sanders wasn't just gaining support, he was becoming a movement. And the building wasn't just shifting behind the scenes anymore. It was visibly splitting. Across social media, the conversation boiled into something more than hype. Start Shedeur hit trending on X. TikTok creators dropped NFL-style tape breakdowns comparing his throws side by side with Mahomes, Burrow, even Aaron Rodgers. YouTubers, some with no ties to Cleveland, uploaded full 20-minute film reviews of a single rep. One moment, one throw, one player. It wasn't just local fan excitement anymore, it was national pressure. Meanwhile, Cleveland's official media accounts couldn't post anything without chaos erupting in the comments. Play the man. What are you waiting for? You've already lost the locker room. Stop protecting the wrong guy. Coaches tried to stick to the plan. Reps stayed split. Press responses stayed vague. But no rep went unseen now, not with cameras everywhere. And that's what made it worse. Because every solid throw from Shedeur Sanders was more than a stat, it was a shot across the bow. Teammates tightened their roots. Receivers dove harder. Energy surged around him like he was already wearing the starter's badge, even if his jersey didn't say so. On the flip side, Dillon Gabriel felt the shift in real time. His reps grew colder. Player enthusiasm dulled. Timing felt off. Chemistry deteriorated, not because he lacked talent, but because belief changes everything. Once a team starts seeing someone else as the guy, it doesn't matter how clean your mechanics look, it feels different. Even Dillon's body language reflected it. Shoulders lower, head down between drills. Footwork that once looked polished now felt robotic. Calculated, not confident. He wasn't just losing a battle, he was sinking under the weight of the moment. And his camp noticed too. NFL agents began making quiet calls around the league. Testing the waters, reading the landscape, because once a locker room picks a leader, there's no trade value in stubborn optimism. Inside the Browns facility, the tension was physical. Some assistants were openly lobbying for more time with Shedeur. Others clung to the development model, hoping the pressure would pass. But it wasn't passing, it was building. Coaches began speaking differently in meetings, choosing their words more carefully, shorter statements, less certainty. Because anything said out loud, even in private, could surface in a tweet 2 hours later. Survival mode had begun. Executives weren't strategizing, they were damage controlling. Public statements were drafted, then reworded, then scrapped entirely. Every press release sounded like it had been filtered by 5 departments. And none of them could compete with the impact of raw film, seen by millions. Because no corporate statement reads louder than this image. A second-string backup, cool, calm, collected, rifling a perfect throw downfield as his teammates erupt with joy that doesn't need explanation. That throw spoke louder than any press conference ever could. And while management debated wording, players had already written the story in ink. They weren't waiting for a team announcement to rally behind their quarterback. They were already doing it between drills. In film rooms. On the field. In the locker room. The Browns didn't just have a quarterback controversy. They had something rare and more dangerous to the status quo. A quarterback movement. And once something becomes organic, once it starts snowballing on its own, no playbook can slow it down. The question wasn't whether change was coming. It was whether the Browns front office would lead the shift or get crushed by it. He didn't need a press conference. No marketing campaign. No hearsay launch. And he didn't say a single word to the media. But somehow, Shedeur Sanders had become the unofficial face of the Cleveland Browns. And the funniest part? He wasn't even the starter. That practice clip, 45 seconds, one throw, one celebration, had done what hype videos and preseason campaigns couldn't do. It changed perception instantly. For fans, it wasn't about stats. It was about feel. And when people saw that throw, they didn't just see a quarterback. They saw belief, bottled in motion. Belief from teammates sprinting into the end zone like they just won a playoff game. Belief in the stunned silence from defenders who stood still afterward. Belief in how natural Shedeur looked doing something the rest of the room was still trying to master. From that moment forward, nobody cared about development plans. Nobody wanted to hear rankings or projections. They had seen it, and once truth lands in high definition, you can't unsee it. Even rival fans admitted it in the comments. Our starting QB doesn't even move like that. I don't like the Browns, but that kid has it. Why is he on the bench? What are they hiding? It hit different because nothing about it felt orchestrated. There was no spin, no sponsorship, no PR gloss. Just one camera, one pass, and a ripple that turned into a seismic shift. Around the league, players took notice. Veterans liked the clip on socials. Some even reposted it, adding comments like, "That's a Sunday throw. Can't coach arm talent like that. If y'all don't want him, trade him to us." Other teams started feeling the heat too. GMs tightened their media access rules. Video policies were reconsidered. Suddenly, practice security wasn't about safety. It was about narrative containment, because the truth was now a threat. A threat to coach control. A threat to planned storylines. A threat to the idea that only decision-makers shape player careers. Not anymore. Shedeur Sanders, whether he meant to or not, had become a symbol of something bigger. He wasn't just fighting for a roster spot. He was fighting on behalf of every player who felt buried by politics. Every rookie told, "Not yet." Every athlete held back, not for lack of skill, but because the system said, "Wait your turn." But here's the kicker. No one cared if the Browns were ready. The fans were, the teammates were, the league was watching. And once the public buys in, it's over. Momentum had officially broken through the walls. At this point, Shedeur didn't have to campaign for the job. The job was already working its way into his hands. Mentally, emotionally, visually, he was already QB1. In post-practice interview, players kept dropping quiet nods. "We just vibe better with him. That's all I'll say. Energy's different when 12's in the huddle." I won't get into details, but yeah, you saw the clip. And even that silence spoke volumes. Local reporters, many of whom had kept things tight around the Browns for years, started slipping. Articles with headlines like, "The throw that changed everything." "Are the Browns already behind their future QB?" began circulating. No insider sourcing, just observation. Because the truth didn't need anonymous leaks anymore. It was visual, relatable, real, and above all, undeniable. The game had changed. And Shedeur never even had to ask for it. He took the spotlight without touching a microphone. He earned the respect of his teammates without posting a single highlight reel. He took control of a franchise by doing the one thing coaches can't fake and fans can't ignore: winning the moment in real time for the world to see. So, by the time the preseason approached, Shedeur Sanders wasn't a backup with upside. He was the guy every camera found, the player teammates rallied behind. The name fans wore on shirts weeks before he was even announced as a starter. The job hadn't been handed to him, he took it. And once a quarterback does that, not with politics, but with proof, there's no going back. What happened in Cleveland wasn't just a quarterback controversy. It was a revolution, quiet at first, then impossible to ignore. For decades, teams controlled the narrative. They shaped careers with press releases and kept depth charts guarded like classified intel. But one leaked clip changed everything. Shedeur Sanders didn't campaign for the job. He didn't need to. A 45-yard missile, caught in crystal clear quality, did the shouting for him. And suddenly, power shifted from coaches and executives to cameras, teammates, and fans. Locker rooms don't wait for permission anymore. Neither do audiences. When the truth hits the screen raw, real, undeniable, no spin can bury it. Shedeur became the face of something bigger than just one team's drama. He became the symbol of a new NFL, one where transparency beats timing, talent outruns talk, and truth goes viral before strategy can catch up. It started with a throw, it ended with a movement, and now the only question left for Cleveland and teams just like them isn't when they'll announce the truth, It's whether they're brave enough to admit what the entire world already knows. Because in this new era of football, you don't get to control the moment when the moment controls you.